Oh, hello. Yes, well, 'tis the Christian God's Day, isn't it? Yeah, that day when we think about all those other people that we don't want to be here. Yeah, the good news yesterday is we had a lot more detail, and by a lot more detail, I mean not really. As to what these enormous Farage-style deportation plans are going to do. Yes. So Mr. Farage yesterday was announcing that, we're just going to deport loads of people when they come to power, which is in quite a few years. They're just going to create a hostile environment and put loads of people on planes and basically make agreements with countries and send people back there, and everything will be fine. Which is great, isn't it? Yes, that's great. That yes. I personally can't see any problems with that whatsoever. But there again, I am, as a lot of people in my comments point out, completely stupid. Yeah, it is a bit tricky, however, because it is classic Farage, whereby it's heavy on the bigotry and very light on anything that's plausibly going to happen. He's suggesting that we basically we have to leave the ECHR because none of this can possibly work if we keep any legal agreements. But what we're going to do, apparently, is send people back to countries that they fled from fear of persecution. Now, when you put it that way, it has a slightly different ring to it to they just came here because they fancied it. Yeah, anyway, I think this is from the Telegraph. Asked about the possibility of people returning to Afghanistan, being tortured or killed. Mr. Farage said, "I'm really sorry, but we can't be responsible for everything that happens in the whole of the world." Yes, so there will be dead people. Just to prime you for that, okay? People fleeing here from the Taliban, Mr. Farage will make a deal with them and then they can go back and we don't have to care about what happens to them. Yes. Yes, it reminds me of some other troubled spots in the world where the British media and British politicians don't seem to care what happens to people. Still, never mind, so long as they're not like us, eh? Who is our priority, he continued. Is it the safety and security of this country and its people, or are we worrying about everyone else in foreign courts? That's what it comes down to. Whose side are you on? Well, not yours, Mr. Farage, I'm afraid, because, I'm sorry, but... Eritrea, for example, has promised to kill migrants coming back, and they might well, a bit like Afghanistan, decide to, definitely enter into an agreement with us, because those Taliban are definitely very, very trustworthy individuals, because after all, we know how swarthy Muslim types are incredibly trustworthy, and they'd love to get their hands on various people that are here. So various people that are here, presumably, will suddenly have any legal safeguards that they came here expecting taken away from them, and they'll be forcibly put on a plane and taken abroad, which Nigel Farage has said will just cost us 10 billion quid over 4 years, I think is his time frame, which is fine. There's no rationale behind any of this, and there's certainly no real thought as to whether or not it's going to actually work. Which brings us neatly to Mr. Rupert Lowe, who's also decided to dip in and give us a whole blueprint. Oh, blueprint, that sounds important, doesn't it? Yeah, because when you're building a building, you need a blueprint, don't you? You don't want something that's just been sketched out on the back of a fag packet. I mean, that would be ridiculous, wasn't it? But this has been sketched out on the back of a napkin, so you can see an enormous amount of detail. Anyway, yes, working together with migration control, come back to them in a second, our research, that's a big word, has found a program of mass deportations of illegal immigrants would, upon completion, save the UK £10 billion annually. A fully detailed and fully costed policy. Yeah, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail with this, but I will pick out a few things. Okay, yeah. So, yes, indeed, fully costed and only £10 billion. And I'm sure you don't have any recollections of government ministers telling you about big projects that were definitely only going to cost £10 billion and certainly wouldn't go into an overrun of 35 years and cost 10 times the amount. I definitely can't think of any high-speed rail links that are like that whatsoever. I'm sure you can't. So let's look at the headline figures here. Yeah, executive summary. Ooh, executive, that sounds fun. That's a man with a briefcase, isn't it? Yes. Achieving a programme of mass deportations of illegal migrants would, upon completion, save the UK £10 billion annually. Yeah. Yeah, not a figure that's been plucked out of thin air, you understand. We'll come on to that. Total cost to implement a deportation programme would be between 40.9 billion and 47.5 billion over its lifetime. Yeah, remember that about cost overruns? Definitely won't be any more than 48 billion. Definitely, well, 62. Oh, okay, outside 150. Well, okay, it has overrun. But if we just deport some more people next year, it's bound. It'll plateau out at 250, won't it? Yes, you can see how that goes. Existing hostile environment measures must be strengthened. Think about what that might mean. And greater utilisation of public data. Think about that one in terms of, having to hold up your birth certificate when you go to the loo, all that stuff, yeah, to ensure voluntary and enforced returns. Partial funding for the programme can be drawn from taxation, yeah, that's you paying for it, and remittances against the scrapping of bilateral foreign aid. Yes, because what he's planning to do is basically force countries, by withdrawing foreign aid from them, to take people back. And I don't know, that's not necessarily going to work, because one of the countries that he does quote is China, that we give £8 million a year to. So you can really see that threatening China with withdrawing £8 million from their foreign aid is really going to touch the bottom line with the Chinese Communist Party. Yes. Anyway, moving on. Assuming 1 million illegal adults and 200,000 illegal children, many of whom, let's face it, will have been born here, the total annual cost is 4.78 billion, to which we must then add a forecast of 5 billion to be saved by restoring order to the asylum system. Yes. In total, illegal migration directly cost the UK just under £10 billion per year, which is a very disputed figure, but okay. It should be added that this figure is incredibly conservative, owing to it not including the considerable secondary economic effects that are set out above. Yes, you see, because it'll just basically pay for itself, because we're not paying for all these migrants. There's a huge drain on us all over the place, and therefore it'll pay for itself. I'm sure you can figure that one out. So let's look at the savings then. A large illegal migrant population has huge secondary economic effects. Yes, these include suppressed wages for low-skilled workers, right, okay. You have to therefore presume that British employers are going to be really, really fine about putting wages up, because there are fewer workers around. Now, most modern economies, the UK one in itself under neoliberalism, really, really like having an unemployment rate of above 4%. Not a great deal above 4%, but 4% is their key sweet spot, because they don't therefore have to pay you anymore, and they can allow your wages to be depressed through inflation, right? That's the way that goes. But without unemployment, that wouldn't happen. And those uppity British workers with their communist trade unions will probably create a great deal of trouble, and British business isn't going to be keen on that. I'll put that one up front. The cost of crime, yeah, because we all know that foreigners commit crime. You wouldn't have any decent British people committing crimes. Just think of the Kate Cray twins. Well, maybe not them. Yeah, Fred West. Well, no, maybe not him. Not Jimmy Savile. Oh, it's hard, isn't it? Anyway, a slump in productivity as businesses stave off investment. Well, yeah, but again, you've got to assume that they're going to buy into this and not really want cheap labour. A loss of income taxes and employer national insurance contributions. Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? Yeah, we won't get that, will we? Because these people won't be paying tax, because a lot of them, if they are illegal, will be doing things like that anyway on the sly, won't they? Anyway, a reduction in the supply of housing and a diluting impact on capital stock for the British public. These are not accounted for in the below. Yeah, loads of other benefits which are just pie in the sky stuff. The Home Office's 2023 Impact Assessment Survey accompanying the legal migration bill allows us to calculate a rough cost to each illegal migrant is, well, I'm not going to go into all the figures, but basically they're assuming that illegal migrants cost us money. It's debatable if they do, okay? It is very, very debatable if they do, because you have to pluck numbers out of the air. I'm not saying that Rupert Lowe has plucked numbers out of the air. No, he's got someone else to pluck numbers out of the air for it. But how exactly would you enforce this? Well, Rupert Lowe's great idea, being the enormous libertarian that he is, the great believer in small government, is effectively effectively to pay people to rat on their neighbours, and also to vastly increase the number of people, a bit like the American ICE lot, who will be wandering around the streets, those nice guys with balaclavas and no other markings other than police, who will be lifting people left, right and centre. Now, you can see what an enormous gift this will be to anybody that's got a bit of a gripe against various neighbours of the wrong colour. Leave that one just hanging. It's a very, very nasty place to be, as well as basically, as it puts here, individuals who provide a tip off of illegal working will receive proceeds of the fines issued to businesses. Yes, but where exactly have these glorious numbers of a definitely very, very workable solution come from? Well, it's Migration Watch. Yes, you may have heard of them because, they often get quoted, don't they? Migration Watch. And you think that I'm going to be rude about the fact that it's just one person in his mum's bedroom. But, well, no, of course it isn't. It's one person who's in his own bedroom. So that's okay, yes. Master Bates, who's often quoted by people that really want something that sounds official to give us loads of spurious numbers. Yeah, I'm thinking about you, Steve Eddington, to back up whatever it is that they have to say. Based in Tufton Street, so obviously enormously trustworthy as well. No problems with that whatsoever. So we end up with a Stasi-like police state whereby employers will be screaming blue murder because they'll have to pay people more, and various key industries will be screaming out for workers. And that is without the notion of courts, who will have to decide on the on the legality of children that were born here as to whether or not what their citizen status is, as well as various people suggesting that if they go back to Eritrea or Afghanistan or somewhere else that they'll be murdered. Still, I'm sure that won't cause a bit of a fuss once we find out that some poor person, a bit like with Theresa May and the Windrush scandal, has, been shipped abroad and killed, and oops, they actually were a British citizen. I mean, it would get to be about as dangerous as being a British aid worker in Gaza. Perhaps, presumably, the government is just priming us for the idea that we can also just get rid of British citizens. Because, after all, if this enormously watertight plan, which is not going to cost us anything whatsoever and will simply be done in 4 years, takes a little bit longer, you can see that the way that they'll just wind it up for, well, basically anyone they don't like. And pardon me, but I'm quite high up on the list of people they don't like, in terms of my political views. And, it's going to be great fun if somebody can shop me, isn't it? Yeah? Making sure that I'm also, I don't know where, initially, presumably, sent to an old army camp a la Farage in Dorset, and then, who knows? Well, I just hope that I don't disappear into an authoritarian regime. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's the will of the people, as various people here keep trying to tell me these things are. Now, if you have nothing to fear from a very authoritarian right-wing government, you're an idiot. Okay? Because these types of governments, once they start to get going, always end up eating their own tail. And let's not forget, the poem First They Came For, A, didn't start with the Jews, but B, was written by a member of the Nazi Party. There's a salutary lesson there, okay? Yeah? Very salutary lesson. It eats its own tail because they're never satisfied. And whilst Connor Tomlinson and Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage and Steve Eddington and the rest of them will sit perfectly happy thinking about what a great job they've done because they've, purified the great blood of the nation, there will be a lot of the non-metaphorical red stuff on the streets. Do have a good one.